When we think about especially the high achiever or the entrepreneur, right, these people make up 2% of the population, and they typically connect best with other high achievers and other entrepreneurs. And so when we're looking at the 12-step programs, statistically, 2 out of 100 men are high achievers and entrepreneurs. The likelihood of a 12-step meeting of 10 or 15 guys, the likelihood of one of those guys being a high achiever, it just isn't that big. Connection with other addicts. You're going to hear it from every single therapist that you see, every sex addiction podcast, book, YouTube video that you watch. All of them are going to tell you you need to connect with other addicts, right? It's a crucial piece of your recovery process. But here's the interesting piece. The way it's stated like it's so easy, like it's something that it should be simple and accessible. When in reality, when I'm talking to addicts and in my own personal recovery, connecting with other like-minded men was extremely challenging. So difficult, because connection, when we think about it, it's a lot more complicated than everybody likes to make it sound. Connection is all about finding commonalities, some similarities between people. It's when two like-minded people have a lot that they share, similar lifestyles, similar interests, similar careers, right? Family dynamics. And so when we think about especially the high achiever or the entrepreneur, right, these people make up 2% of the population, and they typically connect best with other high achievers and other entrepreneurs, whether it be conferences, networking events. And so when we're looking at the 12-step programs, right, SA or SAA dynamic there, if 2%, 2 out of 100 men are high achievers and entrepreneurs, the likelihood of a 12-step meeting of 10 or 15 guys, the likelihood of one of those guys being a high achiever, it just isn't that big, right? Finding people who you really relate to and you have common interests within the 12-step programs can be difficult. And the other interesting dynamic about the 12-step programs is that because it's a common referred method of treatment for men, there are guys who are showing up there who, I wouldn't say always have a 10 out of 10 commitment to their recovery. A lot of them, they're trying to prevent divorce, or they're there to just check off the box. And the challenge with that is for all the other people who are there for themselves, who are trying to achieve a level 10, long-lasting full recovery, the other people there who maybe don't have the same level of commitment, it starts to kind of tarnish the quality of that group. And every time we have somebody attending this meeting who doesn't necessarily want to be there, they're not invested in their recovery, it tends to decrease kind of the quality of that tribe and some of the camaraderie that's possible. And then one of the bigger criticisms that I have is, there's no crosstalk allowed. And I get why they have that rule, because they don't want any sort of unsolicited advice being given, because a lot of these men are not mental health professionals, right? And so, to share and not have any sort of crosstalk is to kind of protect these men from getting unsolicited advice or bad advice from some of the other guys in the group, which I totally understand. But again, it's that eliminating that crosstalk really hinders the amount of connection that's truly possible, right? And so we're looking at this dynamic of trying to find men to connect with. I'm trying to present this not to make it sound difficult or daunting or discourage you, trying to empathize with how challenging this can sometimes be, right? Because again, creating a deep connection, there's a lot of elements and dynamics that go into, forming a friendship with a person. And this, I think the other thing that really is challenging is you're going to have a lot of, whether it be your spouse or partner or therapist, when you're slipping or relapsing or having a close, you're getting close to slipping or relapsing, they're going to tell you, hey, are you making your calls? Are you sending the text message? Are you connecting with the other guys in group? And, that's easier said than done. I mean, in those vulnerable, challenging moments where, you're facing some urges and temptations and cravings, and you're about to act out, it's in those moments where the phone weighs 10,000 pounds. I mean, it's really hard to make a call in that moment. And I would say it's especially hard to make a call in that moment if you're not truly connecting to these guys, if you don't relate to them, right? If you're just calling your sponsor whose addiction is entirely different than yours, that can be a difficult phone phone call to make. Somebody, as a recovering addict myself, I remember those days, right? My wife was always telling, well, did you make a call? What'd you do about it? Did you connect with the guys in group? And, I always felt stupid answering like, no, I didn't want to. But it is. That phone weighs 10,000 pounds in those moments. And the only way that phone's not going to weigh 10,000 pounds is if you admire and respect and actually enjoy spending time with the guy on the other side of that phone call, right? And so again, connection it's incredibly important, right? Those phone calls and text messages, they're probably the only thing that will take away those cravings and urges, right? By injecting the humanity back into the situation. And that's not the only benefit of connection, right? The whole concept of connecting with other men who are struggling with a similar problem is it takes something so daunting and complex and this annoying nuisance that's in your life. And when you're connecting with other men who are trying to strategically solve this so they can get back to living a life full of integrity and meaning, getting this, all of this wasted time out of their life, when you're in a room with other men who have that same objective and the same outcome, how they're treating women, how they're treating themselves, the things they've done to their wife, they're trying to repair all of this. When you're in that room of a bunch of people with that common goal, it reduces the shame. It takes this problem that normally looks like a nuisance, but when you're in a really strong tribe, a bunch of men who you respect, admire, who you enjoy being around, it takes this really daunting, challenging problem and it flips it around. It turns it into hey, this is just a challenge that all of us are facing, right? And we need to find a way to get this out of our life, right? It takes all that shame, that taboo, the secrecy, all of that goes out the window. When you're hanging around a bunch of other entrepreneurs who are struggling with this and it's actually harming their legacy and introducing problems into their life and making the goal, the ultimate, the person they want to become, it's making that harder. The second that can become the focus, then all of a sudden recovery changes, right? It's no longer a burden and inconvenience. It's something that you actually look forward to doing, right? It's the thing standing in your way from becoming the person you want to become. And all of this is possible in one of these, really amazing containers where you are with a bunch of guys and there's connection, camaraderie, there's like-minded conversations, intellectual conversations that actually stimulate you. And I think that's the last thing I would say is, when you're trying to find connection, it's important because it's what makes recovery fun. And for the second that recovery becomes boring, monotonous, and repetitive, that's when guys relapse. So again, why am I sharing all of this with you? Why do I feel so passionate about recording this? Because I want to empathize with those of you who know how important connection is, but find yourself struggling, because it is. Connection is far more complicated than everybody likes to make it sound. Finding someone who you enjoy spending time with, that's not an easy thing. But what I would tell you to do is don't sit back and wait for it to land in your lap. If you are just simply open to go to 12-step where that one guy, walks in the room and you guys become best friends and you lean into each other and help each other recover, if you're waiting for that day to happen, you might be waiting for a really, really long time. Right? So go out and take action, right? I run a group. You can check out our website, call some of the local certified sex addiction therapists in your area and ask them, hey, is there a group around here that is facilitated that really promotes connection? I'm trying to find some like-minded men, some professionals, some entrepreneurs, some people like me that I can recover with, right? Because I'm not finding that, in some of these other groups, right? Take these matters into your own hands. Your recovery depends on it.